Hello everyone, welcome to Shamaf Academy where we create excellence. Today we have a question from the chapter Arithmetic Progressions from grade 10 CBSE. So this question is comprised of 5 steps because the answer is pretty large, it's pretty big and long answer. So I have split this answer into 5 steps to make it easier for you, and let me know how it turns out. So without any further ado, let's read our question. How many terms of AP 78, 71, 64 are needed to give the sum 468? Also find the last term of this AP. So basically this question has given us a sequence of numbers where we can only see the first 3 terms, 78, 71 and 64, and we don't know what comes after that. But we do know this much, that in this sequence there is a pattern. And when we go according to this pattern and we add up some numbers of this sequence, we get the answer 468. Now, how many numbers do we have to add? Definitely when I add 78, 71 and 64, I'm not going to get 468. There are some more numbers. And I don't know how many numbers is that, and that's what the question is asking us. How many terms or how many numbers? If you want to make it easy for you, you can just say it numbers, but in mathematics terminology, we have to use the word terms. So how many terms is what they're asking, and let's call this our how many terms as n. We don't know what is our n. We have our sum, which is 468. Let's denote that with S. And we have our terms 78, 71, 64. This is our first term, this is our second term, then 64 is our third term. So let's call the first term as A, let's call the second term as A2, let's call the third term 64 as A3. So we have A, A2, A3, and then we don't know what is our n. We have our sum, which is our 468. And also it tells us to find the last term of the AP, which we can denote as L. Alright, so without any further ado, let's move on and start our steps. And there's also one thing that I haven't mentioned here, which I will mention in step 2. Let's move on. So our step 1 is recognition, and in this recognition, as we did in the last preliminary step we did there, we are now going to write down neatly what we have so far found out. We have our first term A, which is 78. We have our sum, which is 468. We do not know what's our n. That's what we need to find. But there's something more that we need to find out, which is called D, which is also known as difference. And this is something that you do study in the starting of the chapter, difference. What is difference? Difference is when we have these terms A, we have A1, then A2, we have A3. We have these 3 terms, and difference is when we find out what is this pattern actually. Like you can see they're going in, these are getting decreasing. The numbers are decreasing to 78, 71, 64. But how much are they decreasing? How are they decreasing? We don't know that, and that's why we use D. We use difference to find out what is the pattern that's going on. And to find that, what we do is we subtract the second term with the first term, or we can also do third term, subtract it with second term. Basically, we bring the latter term and we subtract it with the one before it to find what is the difference. Like over here, I can do A3 minus A2. And I can also do A2 minus A1. What is A3 here? A3 is 64. And what is our A2? 71. That gives us -7. Okay. And let's check with A2 and A1 also. What is our A2? A2 is 71 and our A1 is 78. So that also gives us -7. So difference is -7. Difference talks about what is the pattern between this. So basically when I'm subtracting 7 and 7 and 7, that's how my sequence is going on in this question. So my difference is actually -7. So we have our A, we have our sum, we have our N, which we do not know, and we have our D. And now we are going to write down the formula. So our step 2 is formulation, and in this step 2 we are going to put our things that we have found out into a formula which is from our chapter, and this formula is something we are expected to know. So always keep this formula and the other respected formulas from this chapter. Write it on a piece of paper, keep it in front of you all the time. You don't have to sit and memorize them. Just keep it in front of you and start practicing your questions. As you do it, you look at the formula sheet, and this way it sets in your mind. So the formula is as this: S is equal to N by 2, 2A multiplied with 2A plus N minus 1 in bracket, and that is multiplied with the D, and the bracket is closed. So this is our formula, and we have to now substitute in the things that we have found out in our formula. So I'm going to give you, pause this video. I'm going to tell you to pause this video and do it yourself. Fill in this, substitute the values by yourself, and tell me what you get. So pause the video while I won't, and I will be completing this. And so when you do substitute, this is what your answer should look like. And as you can see, we have our N, which is our unknown variable, and we need to find that. So how do we start the calculation? First, start with cross multiplying 468 with 2, and that is going to give us 936. And let's write it down again. And we have the next thing we have is 2 times 78, which gives us 156 plus N minus 1 -7. So this is what you should get. What is the next step we should do? We should be using distributive property, and we should be multiplying a -7 with N and a -7 with -1. And also, what do you get here? You will get -7 times N gives you -7N, and -7 times -1 gives you +7. And let's copy this down right here, 156. And as you can see, this plus will be multiplied with the negative, so it will become a negative. And we close our bracket, which is multiplied by 9 here. And let's write it down as it is. Now the next step we should do is multiply the N with each of this value and do that distributive property. To expand this, pause this video and do this by yourself and come back to see what's the answer. And we will see 156N times N times -7N will be -7N square plus 7N. Now we can actually calculate 156N and 7N. Let me just write this down. Okay, we can actually calculate this. We can add them because they are both like terms. So 156 plus 7 gives us 163N minus 7 square minus 7N square, and that is equal to 936. Now, can you tell me what kind of equation have we formed here? Yes, we formed a quadratic equation, but this quadratic equation doesn't actually kind of look proper. So what we are going to do is we are going to make this look nicer, and our first term, which is supposed to be the square, the square term, we should bring it to the front, but it's not supposed to be negative. So let's bring -7N square to the other side, and also let's move the 163N to the other side. So when I move -7N square to the other side, it will become positive or negative? You tell me. It will become positive. I hope that's the answer that you have told. So 7n square, positive 7n square, and we have a positive 163n, which is going to become negative when it goes to the other side. So it is negative 163n, and our 936 is at this other side already. So it won't change its integer. So that's going to be 936, and that's our quadratic equation. And I hope this step was simple enough for you. If not, then please let me know in the comments below. And let's move on to the next step, which is prime factorization. So we have our step 3, factorization, and in this step of factorization, we are going to do the prime factorization. We still have step 4 to do factorization. Do not worry, it's going to be easy, and this is why I have made this question, split this answer into steps so that you understand it better. So we have the quadratic equation 7n squared minus 163 plus 936, and we have to do the factorization of this, which is also called splitting the middle term. And in splitting the middle term, we have to play with the factors of the sum and product. Now, what is the sum and product, you ask? The product, which is p, let's call it a p. The product is the product of the first numerical coefficient and the last numerical coefficient. So 7 times 936 is our product. 7 times 936, which gives me 6,552. And we have our sum, which is the middlemost numerical coefficient. The numerical coefficient of minus 163n is negative 163. Yes, so our product is 6,552 and our sum is negative 163. I need two numbers. I need two such numbers, which on multiplying will give me 6,552, and on adding or subtracting are going to give me negative 163. So which are those numbers? We have to find what are these numbers. So to find this, in order to find this, we do this method called prime factorization of 6,552. We are going to do the prime factorization of the product so that we get the prime factors on the left hand side over here, and we can then work around and find which are those two numbers. I hope you know what is prime factorization. This is something that you have studied in the previous grades. So pause this video and do the prime factorization of 6,552, and then we are going to find our two numbers. The prime factorization goes like 6,552 is a factor of 2, so when you divide it, you get 3,276. 3,276 is a factor of 2, so I'm going to write here 2 again, a prime number. On the left hand side, we always keep the prime numbers and then we factorize it until we get a 1. So we are going to get here 1,638. 1,638 is again a factor of 2. So we're going to write that and we get 819. 819 is not a factor of 2, so we are going to be using other prime numbers. Let's try with 3. Yes, 3 is a factor of 819, which gives us 273. 273 is a factor of 3 again, so let's divide that by 3 and we get here 91. 91 is a factor of 7, so let's write that 7 13 times, and then we have 13 again. 13 times 1 gives us 13, and we are done. This is our prime factorization of 6,552, and from here we have to make some groups. Maybe I can make this group, maybe I can make this entire other group. I have to make two groups and I have to multiply and check if I'm going to get those two numbers or not. So what I have seen so far, what I can understand is that if I make this group right here and if I make this other group right here, 7 times 13. What is 7 times 13? That gives me 91. 91, and let's multiply all of these numbers here, which is 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. You can use a calculator here if your school allows it, and that can give me 72. So let's check. If I'm multiplying 72 and 91, I am getting 6,552. Yes, I am. And if I am adding 72 and 91, I am getting 163. But I have a dilemma here. My 163 is negative. So I have to alter these two numbers. Let me make this both negative. Negative 71 and negative 91, and that will give me negative 163. And also negative 72 and negative 91 can give me 6,552. So yes, my two numbers are negative 72 and negative 91. In the next step, we are going to use these two numbers in our factorization. We are now going to factorize with these two numbers that we have found out in the last step. Now, we are going to split. This method is called splitting the middle term. Split the middle term. And which is our middle term? Right here, this one. Negative 163. We are going to split it into 91 and 72. And I'm going to keep negative 91 on this side. And I'm going to keep negative 72 and on this side. I'll tell you why. Because if I keep negative 91 on this side, it will be beside 7n, which is a factor of it. 72 and 7 are not the factors. So I'm going to keep 91 here. So 7n square minus 91, and then put this one over here. Negative 7n square minus 91 minus 72n plus 936. Let's make our two groups here. This is one group and we have this other group. And let's find out what are the common factors here. What is common between 7n square and 91n square? Pause this video, think about it and tell me. Yes, n is common. N is a common thing out of 7n square and 91n square. But there is one more factor which is common. The factor 7. 7 is divisible in 7 itself and also in 91. So I'm going to keep the 7n outside here and I'm going to make a small little bracket. Now let me divide the first term with this 7n and let's check here. 7n square divided by 7n. The n and this n square gets cancelled, then the 7 and 7 gets cancelled. We are left with n. So let's write that n. And then let's divide the second term with 7n and check what do we get. We have negative 91n divided by 7n. The n and the n will get cancelled, and then we have 7 and 91, which is 13. 91 divided by 7 will give us 13, and the answer is negative 13. So I'm going to write here negative 13. Now that I've got my first bracket, be sure that my second bracket is also going to be like that. So let's take out what is common between 72n and 936. There is no n common because the other term does not have n in it. But there is 72. The 72 is a common factor between 72 and 936. And let me make that bracket. Let me divide. I have taken negative 72 outside, so that leaves positive 72. So let me just divide positive 72n by 72, which gives me 1. Is just an n here. So we have n, and let's divide 936 with negative 72 and see what do we get. We get 936 divided by negative 72, which is 13. And do not forget there's a negative here, which gives us negative 13. So our factors are n minus 13 and 7. The rest of the stuff will come in other bracket. 7n minus 72. Let's find the n values. Our n can either be n minus 13 equals to 0, which is n equals to 13, or our n is going to be 72 divided by 7. Now, what was n again? Can you please tell me? It was how many terms. It's a number. It's a number of terms. Number of terms cannot be a fraction. Yes, it cannot be a fraction. It's like me telling you I have 2.5 laptops, which is not possible. I can't have a half a laptop. So we are definitely not going to take this option right here, 72 by 7, and we are going to take the other option, which is 13. So that means we have 13 terms. And that's almost the end of the answer, and do not worry, we're almost at the end here. And let's move on to step 5. Now this is the last part of the question, which tells us find the last term of this arithmetic progression or AP, and we have our first 3 terms. We have to find out what is the last term, and thanks to mathematicians we have a formula for that, which is also in our textbook, which is S equals to n by 2 multiplied with a plus L in the bracket. This is our formula, and I want you to pause the video and please substitute the values that have been given on the left to you. And as you can see, we have to find out what is our L, which is our last term. We have all the other values. We have our A, we have our S, we have our N. We do not have our L. So substitute it in, pause the video and do it by yourself, and then play this video again and see if you're correct. So we have our sum here, 468, and then our n, which is 13 by 2, and let's write our a, which is 78, plus L. We do not know what is our L, which we are yet to calculate. Let's start with our cross multiplication of 468 and 2, which gives us 936. Equals to 13 times 78 plus L in the bracket. And let's expand this, multiply 13 with 78 and also multiply 13 with L. So 13 times 78 gives us 1014 plus 13 times L gives us 13L. I hope this is what you got so far, and I hope that I'm correct. If I'm not, then please comment in the section, comment down below and let me know. So we have this. What do we do now? We have to find our L. The first thing that can come to our mind is move the 1014 to the other side and subtract it. Yes? Do we do that? Yeah, I think we're going to do that. Yes, we are. So we have 936. When 1014 is moved to the other side, it becomes negative. So negative 1014 equals to 13L. And pause this video and calculate this and tell me what are you going to get the answer for this. And I hope you have paused it. And our answer is going to be negative 78 equals to 13L. We have our last calculation to do, which we have studied in the previous sections, previous grades. We have studied about how to work around algebraic expressions. Now as you can see, this 13L is multiplied with, so if I want to find our L, I have to divide the 13. So that is negative 78 will be divided right here and will become negative 78 divided by 13, which gives us L, and that will give us negative 6. And negative 6 is our last term of this sequence of arithmetic progressions sequence. I hope this answer was easy for you. Let's go around the steps again. We have 5 steps in this question. The first step talks about recognition, where we recognize all of the terms that are all the terms, all the variables that have been given to us, and we find that. And then we have formulation, step 2, where we actually substitute our variables in this formula. And we have Step 3 of prime factorization, where we find the two numbers that give us the product and the sum for splitting the middle term. And then we have factorization, where we actually split the middle term and we found the value of n. And step 5, lastly, we find the last term, which is the second part of this question. Mostly the biggest part of this question was the first part, but I hope you got the drill now. And if you like this video, please comment below, and if there's anything that I have missed or if there's anything that you still have a doubt with, then please let me ask a question again in another doubt. As you know, it's for free and we always want to help you out. So bye, see you later.